The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Cats and Cosby
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And joining us now here is Lara Trump, the host of My View with Lara Trump. And Lara, you have, I think, the biggest interview in the world on Saturday night. Tell us about it because, boy, it's timely.
It's a big one. Yep. I sat down, of course, with the 47th president, President Donald J. Trump, this week at the White House. And you're right. It's very timely. We talk a lot about Iran, about, kind of where his lines are, what would constitute military action to be on the offensive and not the defensive for the United States. And midterms, we talk about the Giants. We talk about a whole host of things. And then we go out to the ballroom where he gives us an exclusive sneak peek at all the happenings in the ballroom. And currently they're building the UFC arena for the upcoming UFC fight at the White House. So we covered a lot of ground, but it was an exciting interview, and it's an exciting time.
It definitely is. Laura, as we're waiting, obviously, to hear more about Iran, what did he reveal to you of sort of his mindset? What's been amazing, I think, is, first of all, how courageous has your father-in-law, the president, been to go into Iran? And it was chilling to me this week to hear him say in the cabinet meeting that had they not struck with those B-2 bombers last June, they were 2 weeks away, he was saying, from a nuclear weapon. I mean, the stakes couldn't be higher. And the guts of your father-in-law, I think, couldn't be higher.
Yeah, and one of the things we talked about was the fact that I don't think he gets enough credit, Rita, for the fact that he is willing to do the hard things. He's willing to do the necessary things, despite the fact that maybe they are not most politically advantageous for him. I said to him, I'm sure if you planned this, you would never have planned to have a conflict with Iran right in front of midterm elections. This isn't the most opportune time for it, but it is the right time for it and is the necessary time for it. And whether we're talking about that, whether we're talking about moving the American embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, like so many presidents before him said they would do, whether we're talking about taking out someone like Nicolas Maduro, bringing him here to the United States to face justice for his crimes against our people, this president goes out of his way every single time to do what's right. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And it is terrifying to think, had we not executed Operation Midnight Hammer last year to ensure that at least at that moment they stopped their development of nuclear weapons, who knows what could have happened. And you think about the fact that we could have had a different person in that White House, that Kamala Harris, who the Democrats were running, could have been the president of the United States. Think about how different this situation may be right now and how dangerous our world would be. But we have a president who's looking out and putting America first, who is ensuring that we have the strongest, most robust military to handle situations like this. And the best news of all probably is that he is the best negotiator you could ever ask for. And that's exactly what we need. And I do think at the end of this, he said, I want a good deal or no deal at all. He's going to make sure that we have a great deal, that Iran cannot develop a nuclear weapon, they cannot purchase a nuclear weapon, and that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened. And with those three things, I think we're going to see a lot of forward progress, not just for our country, but for the Middle East and the entire world. So thank God we have President Donald J. Trump in the White House right now.
Yeah, thank goodness, given the stakes, as you just said, they can't be higher. Well, what do you say to the Democrats, Lara Trump, when you hear they don't even know even the deal points, if potentially where it's going or where it's not going? First, when he goes in, they have a problem with it. Then when there's a ceasefire, they have a problem. And today I was listening to Senator Cory Booker, and he was saying, it's shameful. He feels like it was a waste. What do you say to the Democrats who it's no matter what he does? I feel like he could walk on water and they'd have a problem with it.
Yeah, the president actually talks about this in our interview, and he said, look, I can make the greatest deal in the world, and they would find an issue with it. They would complain about it. They would say it's not good enough. But we have to acknowledge the fact that no one else could have brought us to this point. And when you look at the Democrats, and people need to ask themselves, what have these people actually contributed in any positive way to our country? Talk about being ashamed. They ought to be ashamed of themselves for disguising the way Joe Biden had no business being president of the United States. They pushed him down everybody's throats. They said he's fine. He's sharp as a tack until the jig was up. And we all saw, now we see Jill Biden herself said that she knew he had cognitive issues. She knew there were problems with him, but they were willing to run a candidate like that until the jig was up. And then they shoved Kamala Harris down all of our throats. And they have not done anything positive for the American people. Their policies are terrible. They want to take the country in the wrong direction, and they are anti-common sense on every issue. So that is the shameful nature of who they truly are. And this president has been able to expose it. So you're right. It doesn't matter what this man does, just because he is who he is, they will always go against it. And sadly, with that, they're going against the United States of America. We should all come together in this moment and feel good about the fact that we are going to defeat a country and a radical ideology who chant death to America. We do not want these people to have a nuclear weapon. This president will ensure that. And even the Democrats, the Trump haters and the Trump derangement syndrome individuals out there should be able to acknowledge that that's positive.
And Lara, before I let you go, I'm sure you've been watching these wild, crazy scenes outside of the Newark ICE facility. And today there was also a law that was passed in New York by Governor Kathy Hochul saying limited ICE, local involvement with ICE, also a mask ban. And then you've got the governor of New Jersey outside the facility in Newark, saying, oh, this is terrible. Let's open up the facility when there's some really violent criminals inside that are illegal. They're complaining about food. What goes through your mind, and what goes through your father-in-law's mind, the president?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is exactly what we were just talking about, right? This is a group of people in the Democrats that have consistently put America last and the American people last. And here you have them outside of a detention facility with, to your point, Rita, murderers, child predators, rapists, really sick individuals who none of us want on our streets. They're advocating for those people to be back out on our streets and among our communities in the United States. It is outrageous, but they have shown us exactly who they are. And you have to ask yourself at a certain point, how many more Sheridan Gormans, who was killed in Chicago by an illegal alien, do we need to have? How many more Laken Rileys do we need to have? Jocelyn Nungaries do we need to have before the Democrats start to realize that the American people see them for exactly who they are? When you are advocating for the worst of the worst, for people who not only have broken our laws to come here, but then have committed violent crimes on top of that, you really need to check yourself. And so I think we all think that. I think the president thinks that. I consistently wonder what is wrong with these individuals. But they're showing us exactly who they are, and they're showing us how none of their policies go to benefit our country. They are against common sense. They are against safety and security. And they're against, at this point, our laws here in the United States of America. So their performative display out in front of this ICE facility is just about all they have to offer, because they have offered zero solutions or anything that is going to make anyone's life in this country better. And the American people are on to them.
Yeah, it's just sheer lunacy. Well, Lara, I can't wait to watch your interview tomorrow night. The whole country's going to be watching. It's the biggie, and it couldn't be just more perfectly timed on so many levels. I can't wait to see what he says about the ballroom, too. Lara, we love having you on, and have a great weekend. And we'll all be tuning in tomorrow to My View with Lara Trump, 9 o'clock on Fox.
I'll see you there. Thanks, Rita.
Thank you, Lara.
Thanks for listening to Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. You can hear Katz and Cosby weekdays at 5. It's the 5 o'clock show on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?